Hi. So, in place of the class on Monday night, due to which was canceled due to Remembrance Day, I'm just going to review a little bit of content here. So, I want to look initially at the calendar, what's coming up. So, we're on the 14th here today. 13th was canceled due to Remembrance Day. But so we've got Practical 3 and the next quiz coming up on the 20th. So next Monday there'll be a practical, so focusing on inheritance and the Windows components that we've looked at so far. As well, assignment 5 is coming up next Monday, and you want to get that finished. If you get that in by the end of the week, I'll make sure to review it, give any feedback before the weekend, so you can review it before Monday night. Okay, and that'll also be, assignment 5 will be good practice for the practical, right? So it's important to get that done in advance. Okay, so that's what's coming up. The main bit of functionality I want to review here is user controls. So what we might have is, we have all these standard user controls built in to Visual Studio that are available through the .NET libraries. But you might want to build certain user controls which could be more complex, could be made up of other user controls to be used inside your applications. You gotta remember, usually if an organization is a .NET shop, they'll be building several applications, and you might want some consistency throughout. All right, so I'm going to start off just to build a user control project. Alright, so I'm going to pick a Windows Form Control Library. I'm just going to call it Windows Form Control Library CIS 2225. And I'm going to put it in Bitbucket here, so it'll be available for download through Bitbucket. I think the idea is that several developers might share these user controls as well, so that there's consistency throughout our applications, and it saves time as well, as we don't have to rebuild the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to put it. So I'll build this Windows Form Control Library in here. Alright, so you see it looks a little bit different than the standard Windows form. This is just going to be a user control which is placed on a Windows form. Alright, so I'm going to rename it to User Control Login. Right, so what I'm going to build is a little login user control, which has a username and password and a button to allow us to log into our applications. Okay, so I'm going to rename that throughout the application to User Control Login. Okay, so I'm going to put a label and another label, username, password, text box, and a text box, and a button, I'm going to put, all right, first off, let's go do our refactoring of these widgets that have been placed on the user control. Make sure we get all the namings standards followed. So button 1. The text is going to be login. And find the name here. All right, the standard is removing the vowels, and double consonants get switched down to 1. So button, login. Okay, do the same thing for text box. So the control type is, it's a text box, so text box, removing the vowels. and there's no double consonants here. So this is going to be username. This one. Find the text associated with those. Here's one. Username and password. I'm going to change the type of this so it uses the masking character, so it doesn't show the password. And it should be here somewhere. Okay, so I'm on the password input field. I'm going to switch the use system password char to true. Okay, so I think I've made most of the modifications. While I'm at it, I might as well I'll make it really good, right? So I'll add a tooltip. I'll call it tooltip. It's kind of funny for a tooltip, but anyway, tooltip. All right, so now I'm ready to add some code. All right, so I'm gonna go look at the code for this user control. All right, so I'm going to take some time, set up my standard header comments. So I'm going to go over, take a look at the programming standards document. Copy that. Tidy it up a bit. Again, version 1. Dependencies, no database file. Oh. 13. Okay, so it took a minute to get my standard documentation. All right, the next thing I want to do is I'll put something in the login. So whenever we click on the button login, we're just going to show a message. I'm just going to show a message that the user is attempting to log in at this point. Maybe later when we get into databases, we'll take this a little further and we'll go check the database, similar to other courses, and verify that the username and password is correct. But we're not worried about that just yet. All right, so also I want to initialize the components. After I initialize the components, I might want to associate that tooltip, give some text for that tooltip. Okay, so I'm going to add my tooltip here. First step, right, so I'm going to add the a little tooltip sentence on the username. So I'm say, you can probably do this through the properties of the form, but I'm just going to do it right programmatically here. So whenever the user control login is created, the text associated with these tooltips will be set through the programming here. All right, so I'm going to add please enter username for the text box username, and please enter password for the password input text box. All right, so another thing you can do with these user controls, you can test them. So if I try to run this, I'm not running a not running Windows form. So you see I get a test container pops up, but I can test things out here too. So I can enter a username, AB, you notice that it's masked, and I type username. So things are working the way I expect. Okay, so I'm going to build this project. All right, and what I do here, this similar to a class library, this builds me a DLL. Now I have access to, now I can use this user control on other applications. So the last step I'm going to do is create a Windows form. Thanks Daniel for showing us this. You launch it from here. I can get a second version of Visual Studio. And I'm going to create a Windows form and drop on this control. Okay, so it's popped up. My Visual Studio's popped up. I want to create a Windows form application. It's just going to be a test. So and I'll put that in Bitbucket as well. Okay, so I have my Windows test login user control Windows form application will be built in this in Bitbucket folder for day 7. All right, so it's not really too much to it here now. After I've created the login form, I have that ability to use it on my applications. And it's a little bit slow here. I'll just let it finish. There it goes. Okay, so now I've got my form here. I might want to add some custom stuff, whatever this application is all about. But what I want to do is add the user control. You see by default it's not going to be available inside my toolbox. But if I go inside the toolbox and right click, say choose items, I have the ability, it's going to take a second to load all these items, but I have the ability to browse to it. All right, so I can go directly to it. And the idea is I'm going to go search for the DLL. So my Windows Forms control library, and in the binary folder here, the bin, under debug, you see here's my DLL. So if I pick this, and load the selected file, and then now I've got my user control login, and I'll say OK, and now I've got, it's in my printing shortcut, so I should drop it down to the general. All right, so now I've got it. I can drop it on my form. All right, we can all have access to it fairly easily. You can download the user control library from Bitbucket, and you would have access to it inside your projects. All right, so now when I run my application, it'll be a regular Windows form application, but it will have my user control on it. And it popped up over here, regular Windows form. My tooltips are all available. And when I log in, I get my pop-up. All right, so it's fairly basic. The good thing is, if I modify it, I've added a reference to the DLL where that exists. So if I go into my to this window and make some modifications, improve it, I have the DLL. Those changes will be reflected if I rebuild my Windows Form application after building the user control application. Those changes will be readily available inside the Windows Form application. All right, so we'll stop there. This will all be checked into Bitbucket, and we'll probably quickly know how to use it if we need to. So try to review, make sure you get through assignment 5. Let me know if you have any questions, and be prepared for the practical next Monday night on November 20th.